No one protects homes and reputations like James Hardy. That's why builders like Michael Weinstein of Olo Builders trust Hardy Fiber Cement Siding and Trim over wood-based products.
Just driving by a home with Hardy Siding and Trim, the difference is pretty obvious. The range of styles and textures allow us to create beautiful homes that weather the test of time. And in our business, durability really does mean everything.
Learn more at jameshardy.com/build.
Entertaining and informative.
This is Sid and Friends in the Morning.
77 WABC.
Here's the pitch to Willie. Swung on, hit deep to left. That one is way back, way back, way back. Well, that's goodbye. Number 600 for Willie Mays and the bye-bye Baby Bonanza. And the Giants come to home plate to greet him. Number 600 for Mays. He hit it over the 370-foot mark. A standing ovation here in San Diego for Willie.
I'm probably a Giant fan because of Willie. He's not my favorite Giant. It's either McCovey or, in that era, Bobby Bonds. But remember, when I started becoming a huge Giant fan in 1968, he was a little older. But he's probably the reason why I'm a huge Giant fan. But he won the MVP in 65. He hit a home run against the Astros to tie the Dodgers in the last game of the regular season in 62. He hit that famous home run in the 14th inning against Warren Spahn in the early 60s when him and Marichal were 0-0 through 14 innings. He ended the game with a home run. He hit the 4 homers at County Stadium in Milwaukee in 61 in late April when he was sick. How many guys an all-timer? Now, I don't think he's the best hitter all time. I mean, he hit 302. DiMaggio hit 325. He struck out 1,500 times. Williams hit 344, struck out 700 times. Musial's hitting 341. Ruth, Garrick. So, Aaron's a better hitter. I don't think he's a better hitter than those guys. He's a great hitter, but I think he's better. But pound for pound, defense, arm, he was a quarterback in high school, running the bases. I think he, pound for pound, he's, you can put him in any argument you want, top couple of guys.
That's my guy, Christopher Mad Dog Russo. Doggy joining us early this morning. Dog on his way to the city actually called in at 6:45 this morning. Thank you, Dog. One of the WFAN legends. We had Joe Beningo, another WFAN legend, talking about Willie Mays yesterday. Now we complete the trifecta WFAN legends talking about Willie Mays. Now, Beningo's 71 years old. Doggy's in his 60s. This guy, I think, is the only guy that's old enough that can actually talk about seeing Mays play in his New York days, not just San Francisco. He's the legend, the schmoozer. Love him dearly. My friend Steve Summers. Steve, good morning, buddy. How are you?
Hey, Sid. Thank you very much for having me on. And let me make a little correction with the Mad Dog. It wasn't scoreless between Juan Marichal and Warren Spahn going 14 innings. That game, which I attended, went 16 innings with both Marichal and Warren Spahn going the distance, and Mays in the bottom of the 16th inning at Candlestick Park hitting a home run to beat the 42-year-old Warren Spahn 1-0. There were 2 other games. First of all, one thing, Sid, thank you again for having me on. That's number one.
Of course.
And number 2, I went to the first ever San Francisco-LA game on the West Coast. It was in San Francisco at a minor league park, Seal Stadium. Giants won that game 8-0. Ruben Gomez was pitching for the Giants and Don Drysdale for the Dodgers. And I was 10 years old, and my uncle that I went to that game with, my Uncle Zevis, the dentist, pulling my baby teeth out with his bare hands, he reminded me years later that while we were sitting there I was 10 and the first game ever on the West Coast between Giants and Dodgers, and he reminded me, I asked him, why were the New York Giants playing their home games in San Francisco? I just didn't understand at the age of 10 that the Giants were from New York and playing out in San Francisco.
Yeah.
One thing about Willie Mays.
Well, hold on. You actually lived in San Francisco. That's why Steve Summers has all these stories. And you mentioned the Seals in that San Francisco stadium. And am I not right when I say another pretty good center fielder played for the Seals? Was it at that stadium, Joe DiMaggio?
Absolutely. And he had a 66-game inning streak as a minor leaguer. When the Giants moved out to San Francisco, Sid, everybody was not, a lot of people were not very excited because of Lazzari, Grassetti, DiMaggio, Lefty Gomez, et cetera, et cetera. A number of Yankees, Mark Koenig, who was the shortstop on the 27 Yankees, and roommate of Babe Ruth, who said that he was living alone on the road. He was Babe Ruth's roommate, Mark Koenig, the shortstop of the 27 Yankees. But Ruth, of course, never made curfew. So living alone on the road was Mark Koenig. But all those guys were from the Bay Area or San Francisco. When Mays and the Giants first came out, people were very cool to Willie Mays because he was New York. And Mays didn't want to leave New York, with Harlem and stickball and really becoming a star after starting his career in 51, 0 for 12 and 1 for 26. And that one was a home run off of Warren Spahn.
Wow.
And because Joe DiMaggio was San Francisco's, favorite son, Mays was looked upon, as a number 2 kind of guy.
Yeah, a friend of mine, his name is Mark Healy. You know Mark, he's written some great baseball books. Now he writes and edits my local newspaper in Rockaway. It's called The Wave. And Mark wrote a great book about Mays. To your point, he said that, between DiMaggio playing center field in San Francisco first, when Willie got to the Giants, even though his numbers were better, they would vote team MVP to Orlando Cepeda. He was a homegrown Giant. Or Willie McCovey. They loved McCovey and Cepeda, but they did not love Willie Mays, and that bothered Willie.
And Mays didn't want to leave New York to begin with, and you can't blame him for that. He was popular here. He was at home here. He was comfortable here. And granted, he also had a problem buying a house because he was black. And San Francisco is liberal as a city can be, and yet he had some discrimination issues when he first moved out to San Francisco. But as a player, he was fluid, joyful, graceful. And Sid, if you could use the word elegant for a baseball player, Willie Mays was that. Wow. And he was smart. He was the definition of a 5-tool player. There's no question about it. And even though as a kid he was not my favorite Giant, that was McCovey. I lived in the same building as Willie McCovey did growing up. And the bottom line is Mays was a little bit distant in the very beginning because he wasn't happy moving out there. And you can imagine, Sid, how many more home runs he might have hit were he not playing his career in the Polo Grounds in Candlestick Park.
That was like 500 feet in Candlestick Park. He still hit 660. And, of course, people who know you from WFAN, you would move from San Francisco to New York and become this legendary voice like Beningo. You're still on the station every now and then. Love your Mets stuff. You and Seinfeld, your good friend Jerry Seinfeld. And we know that Willie, after that 71 season, spent his last 2 years, 72 and 73 with the Mets, hit 14 of those 660 home runs as a New York Met, and was on that Met team that went to the World Series and lost to the A's in 1973. It was clear in that World Series he was done, but was it still a thrill, as bad as he was and old as he was, to see Willie play for the Mets those last 2 years?
Yeah. Oh, no. And that was a good thing Payson bringing him back to New York, where he was home, where he always wanted to be. I saw that 16-inning game. I was there. I also saw two other milestones. One, in person, I saw his hit number 3,000, which was a single into left field. And I also was there to see him beat Sandy Koufax with a home run.
Wow.
4-3 in the same game, Sid, in which Marichal took a bat to the head of John Roseboro.
Oh, the great Marichal Roseboro incident. You were there at that game.
I was in attendance. And Mays won it later on. See, Koufax wouldn't throw at you. You wouldn't be able to get out of the way with one of his fastballs. But Roseboro, in the catcher, in throwing back to Koufax, skimmed the right ear of Juan Marichal, and that's what got Marichal with the bat.
That's right. So about 3 minutes to go. We've got Bill O'Reilly, his weekly Thursday segment coming up, and I couldn't wait to get you on. And, man, have you been great, Steve. Yeah. Joe Beningo said, Willie Mays, best player I ever saw. Barry Bonds, best hitter I ever saw. Russo, who is very anti-steroid, so he can never give Barry Bonds the credit he deserves.
The same way, and I refer to him as Baroid.
Okay, that's fine. I don't. I think that he was, I think they all belong in the Hall of Fame. I think it's silly, but that's fine. So Beningo goes, Mays best player, Barry Bonds best hitter. Russo goes, Mays best player, and I think he said DiMaggio or Aaron best hitter. What does Steve Summers think?
Well, he was a lifetime 302 hitter, so we're not talking Ty Cobb. We're not talking, some of the big hitters of
DiMaggio. Steve DiMaggio hit 345.
Oh, well, sure. Well, Mays had a 345 a year, I believe. He won a couple of MVP awards, but lifetime 302. But the bottom line is a five-tool player. He was smart. In other words, he would get a base hit and take a wide turn at first, forcing the outfielder to throw behind him to get him leaning too far from first base on a single. And as soon as that outfielder would make the throw to first, Mays was off to second. He was the smartest ball player I ever saw. And all around, he was, five tools. The others at Beningo and Russo never saw him play that often unless it was, here in New York with
right.
the Giants.
Oh, Beningo was 71 years old. He was actually at the World Series in 62. He was at the game when McCovey lined out to Bobby Richardson to win the World Series.
Well, I was at the 62 World Series, Game 1 and Game 7. Yankees won Game 7, of course, 1-0 when McCovey lined out
to Richardson
in the bottom of the ninth inning
to Bobby. So what?
Mays kept that inning alive with a double down the right field line, sending Mateo Alou to third.
But Roger Maris had a great arm, and they didn't want to send Alou home. But I will ask you this:
exactly.
So Mays started in 51. Beningo was there in 62. What year? Oh, I guess you were there in 51.
No, I wasn't there. I was 4 years old in 51. Jesus. No, I don't know from 51. And the highlight you played before I came on was with Lon Simmons. Russ Hodges, who called the famous Bobby Thompson home run shot heard around the world, he came out to San Francisco, and Lon Simmons, that was the voice of Lon Simmons on that highlight. He played Mays with a 600th home run. But those guys didn't see him on a regular basis. I did. And again, Mays by far, but he wasn't really that friendly. And I started my career out there in the 60s. And the bottom line is that he wasn't that friendly. He warmed up to the Bay Area, but in the very, very beginning, wasn't as outgoing, as warm, as personable as, say, Willie McCovey and Orlando Cepeda.
Gotcha. The homegrown guys. Hey, listen, Steve, I'm so glad you came on this morning. This was absolutely special. You need to come on this show more often, Stevie. Come on, keep coming back, buddy.
Well, thank you. I've been doing some part-time work at WFAN, and I now call myself a part-time part-timer. So I was on last Sunday. But the bottom line is, anytime, Sid, it is an honor and a pleasure to be on with you.
I love you, Steve Summers. Thank you so much. There he is, back on the band, doing some part-time work. Benigno's on Saturday. Summers is back. One of these days, we'll get the whole band together. That's the great Steve Summers, the schmoozer. Thank you, Steve.
This is Greg Kelly for Priority Gold. What does it mean to be America's precious metals dealer? It means that you're in touch with the hearts and minds of those who love this country, value our freedom, and want to protect the future. Priority Gold is that precious metals dealer. They've helped thousands of Americans back their retirement with solid gold and silver. Call Priority Gold at 888-506-6439. Receive free shipping, free storage, a free investment guide, and one of the best purchase experiences in the industry. Call now or go to PriorityGold.com.